Hey Koji, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Thank you, Alex. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, and to get started, can you give the audience a little bit of background and context on your history and design?
Yeah. All right. So let's start by saying that I moved to US 7 years ago, and I'm originally from Brazil. I grew up in a rough neighborhood in Brazil. I was the first in my family to go to college. So I had this feeling of like, hey, I need to get things right. Then I was already working as a graphic designer at that moment. I had a band, I used to do posters and whatnot. And then at some point, I joined a startup, which that was the year 2000. So we really didn't have the term startup in Brazil. The business model wasn't that strong and maybe like too ahead of time. But I got to work with product very early in my career, which I was very grateful for. And then I joined Google to work on Orkut in 2008. Orkut, again, this is a kind of denouncing how old I am. It was like a social network that was the most popular social network in Brazil and India,
Mm,
owned by Google, and the third in US. So just after MySpace, I believe, in Friendster at some point. I was there for pretty much 10 years, and I
yeah,
worked in a couple of products from zero to one, and a couple of social network ideas. And I joined Lyft as the head of design for Lyft. And there I was able to head of design for Lyft business. So there I was able to work with B2B, work with something that was related to service design, somewhat connected to even industrial design. And I had a blast. It was awesome, an awesome experience. Then the pandemic hit. Then I decided to move on and I joined Twitter. And I've been leading three teams there. So it's search, explore, and trends and events. So,
yeah. How
yeah,
have you seen design progressing in SF?
yeah, that's a good question. I think back in time, I mean, it's been 7 years, but my feeling is that in Brazil, we had so many issues, like so many problems to solve,
Yeah,
and very, very basic ones. So when I think like when people started to build companies there, they started to think about like all of these very basic problems that were around us, right? Like even including like identity, or how do you actually make money transactions, or how
right.
do you, make sure that things in your house are working, you have electricity, like very basic stuff. And moving to here, I actually faced with another type of problems and another series of things that people are actually around and trying to solve. And it's not that the problems here are not important, but I just feel that, especially as we're moving towards a more global sphere and people are really trying, especially like companies like Google, trying to solve problems to the whole world, it's actually very easy to forget that people maybe don't have like running water or electricity in the daily life. So coming here, I was trying to reconnect with that
Yeah,
and make sure that the problems that are so big in emerging countries like Brazil and India are not forgotten by me when I'm here. So I was very excited when I joined NBU because of that, and I think we're able to think about that very unique problem of your 300 bucks phone, Android phone doesn't work anymore. How do we solve for that?
yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And I see some of the new Web3 or metaverse talk, and I feel like there's so many problems some of these companies should be solving today that haven't been solved, and they're already trying to think 20 years ahead. So I totally agree. Even so, Koji, obviously you work in social media. How do you see designers utilizing that platform?
So I actually see, I think there's a couple of things, right? Like there's a lot of exchange. There's a lot of people kind of like helping each other and supporting each other to grow. I
Mhm.
see that a lot on Twitter. So I think Twitter has this very strong community on the design side, and people are very open to just like help each other, talk about issues and talk about how to navigate those issues, how to design better products, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The other side of it is just education. Like there's a couple of creators who are actually doing a very good job, just like interviewing people like you're doing right now with me, which I very appreciate a lot, sharing their, thoughts. And I see that happening a lot, for instance, on Twitter, but also on TikTok, on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that a lot because I think one of the best ways for you to get better at something, it's actually, asking questions and just like, I think actually teaching is another way to learn. So it's a very fruitful way to just like learn from other people and from their different perspectives and experiences, how something could be applied in different situations. I think for designers, it's actually a very good idea to think about how you design things, how you do at work, but also how you build your own brand and how do you actually differentiate from each other. Like,
Yeah, I think this transitions nicely into our next question which is what type of advice do you have for new designers entering the field today?
yeah, I think coming to the field, you're going to see a lot of people with tons of experience. You're going to see people who came from, Ivy League and very strong schools. Don't be intimidated because design, fortunately, is not necessarily about only experience. It's also about problem solving. It's also about, visual design. It's also about taste, and it's also about, how you can build a process that works. So, and all of that, yes, you can learn, and yes, schools and experience will help you a lot. But also the fact that you can just like learn about it yourself, just like do your own research. So don't be intimidated and make sure that you have people around you that will support you. And I'm pretty sure just seeing like how generous the community is, there is a lot of designers who are very experienced that will be very, very happy to provide you with support and to just like provide you with opportunities and free mentorship, actually.
Koji, obviously you've been a designer for a long time and now you're managing multiple teams. Well, what are some important learnings that have stayed with you from that transition from maybe independent contributor or UX designer to actually leading multiple projects and teams?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, what I would say is it's a totally different type of job, right? Knowing design well and being a good designer helps on that job,
Yeah.
but helps you maybe 20%. The other 80% you have to learn again. And I think to me, leadership and just like working with people, there's many aspects of it. One is just like how do you actually translate some of your personal learnings into other people? How you actually not necessarily teach, but how do you actually mentor and coach other people to do a good job? Another thing that it's really hard to me is the fact that people are not just the persona you see at work, right? People have their own backgrounds, people have their own issues, people have their own traumas.
Yeah.
People go through a lot of stuff that you don't know. And as a manager, you have to be sensitive and understand what this person is going through and just building that empathy that I think it's very easy to forget when you're in a very high performance environment.
Yep.
So just making sure that you take a step back, build that connection very tightly, and really try to understand what's going on. What are the things that this person is going through? We're just being in the midst of a pandemic, which hasn't been easy at all, right? Like, how do you put everything in context and try to build that empathy?
Is there anything else where people can find you? Maybe you should check out some of the work you've done.
Yeah. So what I would say is please check out my podcast, and it's salesandpixels.com. I'm hiring, and I'm hiring at Twitter. I'm hiring pretty much everywhere I am. So please reach me out. I think the easiest way is to look up for Koji Pereira on LinkedIn, or you can follow me on Twitter. It's Koji EUMESMO. That's my handle. It's in Portuguese, so sorry for that. But please follow me and stay in touch. I'm happy to, connect with people, even if it's just a chat, or as much as possible. I'll try to, come back to you and have a chat.
That's awesome, Koji. Thanks so much for being open to that. And yeah, for the audience out there, obviously Koji's looking for awesome designers to work with and also advice to impart. So I've learned a lot today, and I definitely suggest you reach out to Koji. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Alex, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time and the thoughtful questions.